European Commission's debating whether the UK should be allowed to put a few subsidies in to the new nuclear reactors that are being built in the country. They weren't considering this until Greenpeace and the Green Party and some other people brought the subject up and applied to the European Commission to look into this. So now it's put back the building of the reactors for the study's going to take another 18 months before they finally go ahead and build these new reactors, because they're going to do it, they better do it. And the Greenpeace are saying, so if you have an accident and it releases crap into the atmosphere across the United Kingdom and Europe and what have you, the electric company which has that reactor has to pay the first £1 billion towards the clean-up. Now Europe and well a lot of the world have signed up to this carbon trading agreement. Now each nuclear reactor, because it produces such little amount of carbon, when you take the whole cycle into account, that includes getting the uranium out, enriching the uranium, using the uranium, and then dealing with the wastes and then putting the uranium back in again. When you figure all that out and put that into the carbon calculator, each UK nuclear power station will be entitled to £50 million in tax breaks. When you add up the 18 power stations that we have in England, that in today's money equates to £900 billion in tax breaks that the UK will be entitled to, just because it's got 18 nuclear reactors. So that pretty much covers every single year the amount that they'll have to pay if there's an accident, which is highly unlikely. It's like a 1,000-year event or a 10,000-year event, because they're that safe. Now the UK are planning on putting 8 nuclear reactors, brand new ones, in, and that's piss poor. I think we should be planning on putting 18 in to replace the ones that we've got, and then a further 8 to make it up to 26 reactors that we've got. If we had 26 reactors, that would be £1.3 billion per year in this carbon trading that the UK would be making as a profit for just having the nuclear reactors in. Now I've just put proposals in to have Phalanx or Gatekeeper type security put around nuclear reactors to stop terrorists, and also to have anti-missile shield. The anti-missile shield that they want to put into Europe on the eastern borders of Europe near Russia, I've proposed that we put some of that anti-missile shield around all of our nuclear reactors as well. Now the cost of putting that in would be offset in 1 year's worth of tax breaks from carbon trading in Europe, just by putting nuclear reactors in. So we'd have security of having the anti-missile shield, we'd have security of having the Phalanx or Gatekeeper type security shield around it as well, which would keep out people's dogs and cats and small-time activists and terrorists. And obviously the anti-missile shield would keep out the missiles, and a ground-to-air missile system as well would keep out any, like, you know, like, remember that bloke that flew his aeroplane into the what's it called in America, the tax office in America, I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, he got pissed off because he was getting a tax fix and his company went bankrupt or something, so he got in his aeroplane and flew it into the something building in America. It would take them out, the Phalanx system would take them out, and the ground-to-air missiles would take them out as well. And every year that these reactors are in without a problem, you'd be getting around about £1.3 billion per year in tax breaks from them. So the government subsidies would be outweighed by the tax breaks. They would pay themselves. Your electricity would be cheaper. Now it's said that nuclear electricity at the moment is 12 pence per kilowatt. Yeah, it's 12 pence per kilowatt, or it's 14 cents per kilowatt hour. Now I know you lot are paying like 20 something pence per kilowatt hour, because that's, you have to have it mixed with the there's a energy mix where you've got solar energy, you've got wind energy, you've got wave energy or tidal energy, you've got nuclear energy, and you've got gas energy and a little bit of coal as well, and some biomass energy plants as well. So you've got the energy mix. Now if it was pure nuclear, you'd be paying around about 12 pence per kilowatt hour. Now as gas prices go up, and that's a percentage of the energy market, your price of electricity will go up and down with the gas prices. With nuclear fuel, you know what price you're going to be spending, because it's the price of enriching the uranium and building the reactor and dealing with the waste. So you know for a start, all of the energy for the next 25 years is going to be that price plus dealing with waste. And now you've got a tax break of £50 million per reactor, and that's just what the experts say. Now let's take Fukushima into account, because Fukushima has gone up, and it was an earthquake with a tsunami. If it was just the earthquake, the reactors would not have gone exploded. They might have had a cracked sump. They don't know whether the sump was cracked beforehand, so it might have had a cracked sump, but there's no doubt in my mind that they'd have been able to recover that situation really easily. If they'd have built the wall a little bit bigger so the wave didn't go over the pipework and damage all the pipework or the cooling system, because it's the cooling system that got damaged which caused this accident. But by the by, it happened. Right, so it took one great big natural disaster, and I'm emphasising this because the plant was safe. Now the cleanup cost, they think it's going to cost around about between 2 and 7 billion pounds. I don't know what that is in the Japanese currency. I think it's the yen. I don't know what it is in the yen, but it's going to cost around between 2 and 7 billion pounds. And that's including everything, that's cleaning up and compensation and everything. Now bear in mind that one oil rig blew up called the Horizon in the Gulf of Mexico, and BP had to put 20 billion pounds aside to cover itself, and it's already spent over 7 billion pounds in compensation and clean-up. Well over 7 billion, and it's increasing all the time. And now they're taking Halliburton to court over that. And we have multiple oil disasters every year, and that includes the gas market as well, because oil and gas are dug out at the same place. So if you take into account the amount of bad nuclear accidents that have happened which would have to be compensated for, would have to be cleaned up, so let's say 3 Mile Island, Sellafield, Windscale, Fukushima and Chernobyl, you put all those together, and let's say you're going to pay out Fukushima amounts of compensation and clean up, you'd be looking around about 37 billion pound in today's money. Now if you add up all the oil disasters that happened in the same year that the Horizon disaster happened, that's just 1 year's worth. The compensation and the loss of money's gone way off the scale. So you can see how much oil and gas costs you. I mean, think about Brunsfield. I just want to stop for a minute here, because it became apparent when I was rewatching it back and editing it that just imagine if there was like 20 or 30 oil rigs down and gas platforms down the coast of Japan there when that tsunami hit and that earthquake hit. They might have survived the earthquake, but when the tsunami came in, they'd have been ripped off their moorings, sank to the bottom of the sea, each one costing about £2 billion to replace. Imagine the disaster if there was oil rigs there. Can you just focus that in your mind for a second? Just imagine if there was just imagine it went over an oil refinery, and then all that crap went everywhere, all over the place. Well, it more or less did, didn't it, eh? I think you'll find all the oil in the cars and all the petrol stations and everything have caused more of a natural disaster over the area. If they calculated, if in Fukushima they went round seeing where all the petrol was laying now and all the oil splodges and everything was all laying, like, there's more oil and crap that's going to have to be cleaned up, and that should be calculated into the cost of the clean-up there, because there was a massive tsunami and it was devastating. Devastating. It went up. Don't think about that when where was that went up. I can't remember the name of it now. Like, yeah, the same year. That's just 2 disasters in the same year. Now the loss of fuel alone is billions. The loss of an oil rig here. Loss of another oil rig went down in the Barents Sea this year. I can't remember what it was. Some Russian oil platform just went down. Now it cost 3 billion to build, or 2 billion to build, or something like that. Yeah. And it's just on the bottom of the seabed now. It's just a pile of scrap. So as you can see, last year you've got £20 billion worth of compensation gone out, and all those birds that have died, and all those fish that have died, and all those shrimps that have died, and all those humans in the bay of whatever they call it, that have been breathing in the fumes, have been dying of cancers because they've been breathing in all the chemicals and all of the oil pollutants, and swimming in the sea and dying from it. And you haven't been told about this, like you don't read enough, you green people. So what you've got to understand is, if we put carbon capture in England, we've just wasted about £5 billion on putting gas infrastructure around the country, because we had to deal with Russia for cheap gas. Now we're just going to have to scrap that. And then we put carbon capture, and then we're going to have to build carbon capture coal fired power stations. And then where are you going to get the coal from? You're going to start digging coal out again, or you're going to start buying it from other countries, and then you've got to continually buy the coal all the time. Now for wind power, the wind turbines, you've got to repair them all the time. When they break, you've got to repair them. And the offshore ones, who wants to go offshore and repair them? And when it's too windy or too rainy, you can't do it. When we have a gas explosion, which we've had about 20 gas explosions in the UK, and we're not got to the end of January yet, big ones which have blown up the road, right, which you've had to dig the road up, it's closed down a whole road. And every single road that gets closed down, if it's a major road that's closed down, it's £1 million per hour. To be honest with you, when you look at all the pluses and minuses, now when a nuclear accident happens like Fukushima, yes, there's a lot of pollution that goes out, but it settles and that's it. It's heavy metal. It's metals. It's not fluid. It's metal. Cesium is a metal. Iodine is a metal. Uranium is a metal. It's a metal. And the radiation it gives off, you can detect it from meters or miles away. If you start dripping oil, you know, if your engine blows up and oil drips on the floor, right, let's say a bus, I followed a bus one time, its engine blew up, oil went on the floor, and I skidded off the road in my car. Right, and this happens all the time because of oil. If you had an electric engine, that wouldn't happen. Right, and I followed another bus one time, I was about half a mile behind it, and it had blown up, and I was on my push bike, and another bus overtook me and pushed me into the side of the curb where the oil was, and I slipped off and about broke my neck on some railings and about got run over by the bus. I got myself up, picked myself up, and the bus had pissed off, like, yeah. I got half a mile down the road and I saw the bus which had pulled over at the side with its blown up engine, which had caused the accident. How many buses have blown up and put oil on the drains, and then that's gone on the road, and then that's gone down the drains this year? Millions. Cars, hundreds of millions. That's what you're doing by having coal, oil and gas. You're causing ecological disasters, mini ones and massive ones everywhere. Nuclear, we've had one in the last 20 years. And then it was Chernobyl, and then we had one in the 20 years before that, and that was 3 Mile Island. And a couple of minor ones, like Windscale and whatever you like, yeah, you know what I mean? Whereas oil, gas and coal, disasters are happening all the time, daily, monthly, weekly, hourly. Every single day of the year there's some kind of ecological disaster caused by fossil fuels. And whether you do carbon capture or biofuels, they're going to cause big disasters through fire. Oh gee, do you imagine it? That's what's happening. That's what you're going to have. We need nuclear power stations. We need